Today on Locked On Canadiens, your eyes do not deceive you. Nick Suzuki walked away with a first place Hart vote. We'll get into it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1330 of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast doing. That supports us here at the show and ensures you don't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan, also known as a guy who doesn't get a Hart vote and probably wouldn't have given a first place win to Nick Suzuki anyway. And I'm joined by Laura Saba, also known as the Actor Stick. Laura, weird day this Friday. They're kind of just dumping awards out on Thursday night. Very weird to see them do it this way. How are you feeling after this onslaught of, hey, the Canadiens got a bunch of weird votes for stuff?
They did. Nick Suzuki got a first place Hart vote. he got some Hart votes. Samuel Montembeault apparently got a third place Vezina vote. Nick Suzuki got Lady Byng vote. We talked yesterday about how Lane Hudson got Norris votes. The Montreal Canadiens are in the conversation again, and all I have to say about that is die mad, haters.
Yeah, it's I think it's just more so shocked to see them involved in any of these conversations. But we'll talk about Suzuki getting that award consideration. We'll talk about the rest of the Canadiens getting some award consideration, and then it's Friday, so we'll head into our mailbag. We have some conversations about the idea of letting them play in the playoffs, which was fueled by an article of good friend of the show and basically Habs blogging godfather Andrew Berkshire, writing about the current state of the game. So we'll talk about that, and then some fun stuff like talking about our favorite Habs memorabilia that we have. So stick around. Fridays are always the best. The mailbag days. You guys never let us down, and we hope to return the favor. All right, let's start with these award considerations. So the Lady Byng was announced first. Nick Suzuki comes in fifth place. He fared quite well in the Lady Byng vote. And I think of the awards, it's one that you never really see people get up in arms about because it's basically just, who do you think is the nicest young man? Like, that's what the award is. Who's the goodest boy who's also good at hockey? That person wins. This year it was Anze Kopitar. He's won the award in the past. Your thoughts on Nick Suzuki getting recognized as the fifth nicest boy in the National Hockey League?
I think Nick Suzuki is a very, very nice boy. He's a nice young man. He's honestly, everything about him screams professional, right? And I think it's so important to mention how young he is in that conversation because, he got drafted by Vegas, but he started his career here in Montreal, really. And for a lot of young players, Montreal is a place where it can be a risk a lot of the time, right? It is a place where people party. It's a place with a reputation. It's a place where if you're a hockey player, you're treated like an Oscar-winning celebrity, kind of person, right? So it is a place where the spotlight is on you, and we've seen it hurt some players in the past. But Nick Suzuki has a good head on his shoulders, so I think part of that is just everything that he does, right? Like the leadership that he shows, the quiet example that he sets for everybody, the way he kind of also embraced that when the team came to him and said, we want you to wear the C, I think is really, really, really important. The way, here's the thing, like Nick Suzuki, I know he doesn't do it very often, but he's learned French, right? He speaks French sometimes, but he made the effort. He took the initiative. Yeah. He did that, right? He understands what it means to be a Montreal Canadian. Now, that's not really what the Lady Byng is about, but I think it's just an example of how he carries himself every day. And I think that goes across on the ice as well. Like, he's very intense when he's playing. He's not like, you can see it, right? And sometimes he can quietly destroy you and then have you shaking his hand after. And I really love that about him. He does not need to pull any Florida antics to be filthy. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of surprising sometimes. He does lay guys out in ways that is always kind of shocking because he's not big, but he's definitely sturdy. He's very compact. Mm-hmm. I think that gets, it shocks a lot of people, obviously, when they get hit by that guy. I don't really have anything else to add on the Lady Byng other than rename the name of the trophy. That's the Johnny Gaudreau trophy from now on. I don't know why they haven't done it yet. I hope this is the last time they call it the Lady Byng, to be honest with you. But anyway, we have to talk about the Hart vote because Connor Hellebuyck wins it. He wins the Vezina as well. He does what Carey Price did 10 years ago in being the 6th goalie all time to do that. Pretty cool. But Nick Suzuki finishes in 9th place. He gets a first place vote and a second place vote, and I think 9 fifth place votes. It's a big gap there between the places that he could finish. That we have at the time that we're recording this, we don't have the Professional Hockey Writers Association's full list of who voted for who. But we do know who gave him the first place vote. It was a writer by the name of Dylan Laux out of Minnesota. Gave him the first place vote. So we can, at least for the first place vote, we can set aside those local Montreal media nonsense that's always kind of been nonsense, except for the one year that, Jerome McGinley lost to the Hart Trophy because of Montreal media nonsense. That is a moniker they have not shaken, and I don't think they ever will.
It was so long ago.
It was so long ago. It was 2002. It was so long. My opinion on voting is very clear. I've made it on this show a few times. And the thing that I'll say is this. I'll just reiterate it. I do not believe that the writers should be the ones voting for this, so long as the Hall of Fame is not decided by the writers. Because these awards determine, in no small part, who makes the Hall of Fame. That's why I kind of like the way baseball does it. Baseball's writers vote on, I believe, the MVP, the Cy Young, in both leagues, and I believe maybe Rookie of the Year. And they also are part of the Hall of Fame selection committee. So it makes sense. This doesn't really make sense. And it's moments like this, not so much that we disagree with this person's vote. And I know a lot of people do. I'm relishing in it. I love it for Nick. We're big Suzuki supporters here. Maybe not as big as Craig Button, who I thought would have been the number one vote. We still haven't. He could be 2. You probably know this as you're listening to this. It could be 2, but so long as that's the case, votes like this are kind of like, I don't know. This person left Connor Hellebuyck off his ballot entirely. Like that to me is just like these people are deciding who wins these awards and who gets into the Hall of Fame, and it makes me feel icky. It really does.
It's because they're doing it based on vibes and not what's actually going on. Because. Sorry, like the 5th place votes, I get. Nick Suzuki, like Kent Hughes came out and said, Nick Suzuki said, don't trade these guys. We will make the playoffs. And then he turbocharged his own performance and he led the Habs into the playoffs, right? But when I say led, I mean led as a captain, because if you look at the numbers, there were so many contributors to that, right? You can't objectively say that Nick Suzuki was the only reason they got into the playoffs, or like 80% of the reason, or 90, whatever it is, right? And we all know the Hart Trophy is like a who propelled the team into the playoffs award. That's what it's about. And there's nothing wrong with that definition, right? Like, how important was this player? But so many Habs had good seasons, career years, redefined the way they played. So many people contributed to this that I think that it is a little bit unfair to only single out Nick Suzuki, as much as I love that he's getting this vote and that he didn't get it from a Montreal media member. So you can't even accuse us of shenanigans. I think the fifth place vote is fair. To me, that is I think you deserve to be in the conversation. I just don't think you deserve this award, right? Like if I were a writer, I might have done that too. I might have given him a 5th place.
Yeah, the 5th place vote, I sort of talked about it with Hudson and the Norris. For me, like if I was a voter, I'd be like, that's a spot that I'm just going to give to a guy I think maybe wouldn't be in consideration for this, but I saw him a lot and I really like this player. Like, I don't know that a 5th place vote is necessarily throwing the vote in any which way, which I guess is part of the problem, right? Like if I'm thinking that way, I can only imagine some of the writers are. You mentioned the Hart Trophy is always player who leads their bad team to the playoffs. Are you of the mind that you have to make the playoffs to win the Hart Trophy? Because I am vehemently against that. I think that your season can still have value even if you do not make the playoffs. Half the league doesn't make the playoffs. Like it's not fair, I don't think, to put that on guys who might have truly spectacular seasons on teams that were just terrible. Like I think the Taylor Hall one where he was okay. It was good. He was really good. And he led the Devils to the playoffs. But like Connor McDavid was incredible, but the Oilers didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. So I don't think it's hard and fast. Like, I don't think that's the reason you should win the Hart, but I think that it's fine that it's such a major component of it. Like, I don't agree with you on that.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave the awards here until they come up with another one that we haven't even heard of, and I don't know. Mike Matheson gets votes for it. So we'll leave the awards voting here. When we come back, we're hitting our mailbag, and we're starting with a question about letting them play in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we'll get into that in just a moment. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game, either before tip-off or even live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The NBA Finals are underway, and we might have an upset brewing. The Indiana Pacers are up in the series 2-1, but are coming in as underdogs to win the series at plus 190. Can the Pacers hold on, or will the Thunder come back and take the series as minus 230 favorites? New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Laura, we're digging into the mailbag here. And our first question comes from Alexander Christian, who has suggested to us in the past the Pew Suitor 2C or not 2C. They've gotten some trivia questions right. So we love to see that. Thank you for writing in and giving us your thoughts here as well. You left some very nice things in there for us. I'm going to not indulge in that live. We've both read it. We very much appreciate it. Thank you. The question. Andrew Berkshire's excellent Eyes on the Prize piece about how refs call the playoffs mentions how after every playoff loss, teams talk about getting bigger. I'm a little nervous that we seem to be going down that road. I had felt up until this point like Hugo Duo wasn't prone to the standard hockey man traps, but I'm worried that this one is a siren call to every single one of them. My question is there any reason to spend to get bigger when we have Florian Jacki and Reinbacher on the farm and a Michael Pezzetta? Okay, not huge but tough. He's probably not back anyway. We don't even use every single time I think about this team getting bigger. I think about Andreas Martinson, Dwight King, and Steve Ott, possibly the worst trade deadline a GM has ever had. I want to tackle this in two pieces. This will be our second segment. I want to start with the piece that Andrew Berkshire wrote, because I think it's excellent. I think it points out a lot of the flaws that are in the NHL game in the playoffs by design. This is the way that they want them to play. And I think what's so frustrating, and I know I've talked to Laura about it, like during game 2 of the Cup final, when Edmonton was getting the better of Florida because Florida kept doing dumb things and taking penalties and putting Edmonton on the power play, they started the second period like, oh, fine, we'll just be really good at hockey. Like it's a functional choice for them to play the way that they do, and they could easily go to a game that is really enjoyable to watch. And yet they know that this tactic of flooding the zone, which is what Andrew called it in his piece, works because it does. They're not going to call everything. They're going to call a lot of stuff, especially on the Panthers. They led the league in penalty minutes, but they're not going to call everything. Where are you at on this whole let them play in the playoffs thing? Because I'm of two minds about it, but I want to hear your take.
I think that, okay, so this is going to inform the second part of this conversation. I think that, the cliche of putting the whistles away during the playoffs does the game a disservice, right? I also think that there is a risk, though, of inserting yourself and making yourself the main character of the playoffs if you do too much, right? I think what they have to do is they have to set the tone in every single series. In game 1, just call everything. Game 1, call everything. It's going to be annoying. It's going to take long. There's going to be a lot of stoppages, but just call everything in game 1. And then it forces everybody to play really well. I think, and again, like nobody likes that, right? Like the playoffs is like, it's when you get all your ratings. It's when everyone tunes in, right? How many Edmonton Oilers games did I watch this year? Just the ones against the Canadiens. Same thing with Florida, but now I've watched every single finals game because it's the playoffs. So it's really like, I get it. It's hard. Like the rhythm of the game is really messed up, but you set the tone. And I know like, it's all the kind of like Brendan Shanahan came in and tried to actually like enact discipline and everyone complained about it. It's just one game. You force them to play their best, because if you are in the Stanley Cup final, you should be the best two teams and you should play that amazing hockey that's so incredibly fun to watch. right? And that also, like, if you play it that way, it makes the game more fair because it exposes the frauds and the paper tigers.
Yeah. I agree with you that I think the way we get out of this is by the season after the lockout, the 06 lockout, where the refs were basically told you're going to call everything now, and penalties went way up, and then guys adjusted, and the league kind of went back to a normal number of power plays. I think they probably gave up on that too soon. They probably could have done another season of that sort of really harsh crackdown, but I just don't see that the NHL thinks this is a problem, and it's because the sport is the most popular I think it's ever been. The league is the most popular it's ever been, which is really what matters to the National Hockey League. That they're kind of beating out the NBA right now for viewers. So I think it's the fact that the sport is incredibly popular is sending the wrong message to these guys that they don't need to change this. But at the same time, I think that games that are all power plays suck. I don't like them. I think the hockey was designed and is enjoyable when most of it is at 5-on-5, and a power play is something that can swing the game.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that we can take advantage of 2 to 3 times a game and take our chance and try to score a goal that puts our team up. Like, I think that that's the challenge for me. Now, to bring this to the Canadiens, I think the big guys that Alexander is afraid of grabbing at the trade deadline are by and large no longer really in the league. There's a few of them, right? But like the game is much faster now than even it was 10 years ago. Like those guys wouldn't be able to hang at that point in their careers. I mean, Dwight King couldn't hang at that point in his career. I think that this front office, while yes, they are putting a premium on size and compete, I don't think that is ever going to come at the cost of this guy has to be able to play hockey.
And good hockey. And good
Yeah,
hockey with the
exactly. Like
rest
you
of the
have to
team.
play like Marty St. Louis wants to coach guys that he thinks think the game well.
Yeah.
Like a Dwight King or an Andreas Martinson whose nickname was Beefaroni. Like I just those guys wouldn't play on this team. It's why Michael Pezzetta never played on this team because he couldn't. That's not a guy that you could look at and say, yeah, Marty would like coaching that guy. Like I just don't think that that's the case. So like I'm not all that concerned. Are you concerned that the Canadiens will go down that route again of just grabbing beef and putting them on the wings?
Not really. I do understand that people think the Canadians should be tougher, especially watching them in the first playoff round that they've played in 3 years, 4 years. I get it. I understand why. I just think that worshiping size at the expense of skill is always a losing proposition because the Florida Panthers have size and they're tough, but they all have skill.
Yeah,
None of those
Sam
players.
Bennett is leading the playoffs in goal scoring. Like that.
Yeah.
I think we're missing a lot of this. Like they're also incredibly elite hockey players.
Yes, that's the thing. So if you're going to get a guy that's large and tough, but can play hockey really well, go for it. But what I think is like what people should do to combat this, how do people beat the Florida Panthers? We said it. Get better power play players. Get players that will kill them on the power play. And then they will stop doing that kind of stuff and force you to just play hockey.
Yep. No, absolutely. Outside of that, I think we just kind of have to wait for this Panthers roster to just naturally decay, which is what happens with all of these quasi dynasties of the 2010s into now. Eventually, the light comes on at the bar and the check comes due, and that happens to all of these guys. We're kind of seeing it happen to Tampa a little bit. We saw it happen to Boston. We saw it happen to Chicago. Like we've seen it happen to these guys. So
LA.
like LA has done a decent job bouncing back. Like they've come back faster than any of the other ones have. But yeah, like they're a similar proposition. I think, it's not a very satisfying answer that maybe the monster just goes away at the end, but like that's kind of how this works. A lot of these dynasties end, they come into the season one year and they just don't have it.
Yeah.
And I think like that's what's going to happen with this team. They're going to have played like 3 seasons worth of hockey in 2 seasons because of all of these runs that they've gone on.
Yeah. And honestly, like I think the thing that we have to remember is that Boston Bruins team that was so big and tough won 1 Stanley Cup, right? The Tampas, the LAs, the Chicagos, Tampa with even making the finals so many times. You look at those teams, it's not that they weren't tough, it's that they were deep. That is the recipe for success. Why does Toronto lose? Why did Edmonton keep losing up until the last couple of years? Because they weren't deep. They need talent up and down the lineup. And worshiping size at the expense of skill does not give you that ability, right? And you look at Boston, they went back to another final, but did they win it? No, right?
It's true. It's true. All right, so we'll leave that question there. Thank you, Alexander, for writing into us, and hope you do it again sometime. That was a really fun one to pick apart. All right, when we come back, we're hitting the mailbag again. We'll talk about maybe some good matches for the Canadiens in trade opportunities, and we'll talk about some of our favorite Habs memorabilia when we come back on Locked On Canadiens. Let me guess, you just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs post puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. I've been in that spot before where you needed the right hire, like yesterday, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person feels like a major setback. That's exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs comes in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's a $75 sponsored job credit when you go to Indeed.com/lockedon to support our show. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, we're back, and with a returning customer here in one Claude Sauvé. Hi, guys. Am I being delusional in thinking that the draft capital the Habs have paired with a team with an aging roster and no draft capital for the foreseeable future could be a good trading partner? Using Winnipeg as an example, would Gabe Vilardi or Kyle Connor be feasible trade targets for said capital? So looking at the Winnipeg Jets draft capital coming up, they have their own first-round pick for the next 3 years, but they have no seconds. They have all of their thirds for the next 3 years, but no fourths. So they've raided the cupboard, so to speak. Meanwhile, Montreal is flush with picks. I don't need to go through all of them. They're not going to make picks with all of those players, so don't buy first round pick in 2025 jerseys or whatever. I don't know that Kyle Connor and Gabe Vilardi and maybe the Jets in general are a good target, because I think they're in go for it mode right now. They're trying to win. It doesn't, to me anyway, make sense for those guys to move on. However, I think you're barking up the right tree. Like, I think a team like the Rangers, who just seem to be in complete free fall, both, in the standings this year and in mentality and respect around the league.
Like, they have no idea what they're doing.
No idea what they're doing. Like, they traded Chris Kreider, and I'm just kind of confused as to what's happening there. Like, they did it just to get out from the cap hit, but like, you need guys to play for you next year. Are you guys not trying to be a playoff team? The rumors are that they're shopping Mika Zibanejad and Keandre Miller as well. That's the team I'm targeting. That's the team I'm throwing, both those first round picks at, plus a prospect for Keandre Miller. Like, that's what I'm doing. What about you? Like, does that match make sense for the Canadiens?
It does, but I do think that's a lot for Keandre Miller.
For sure. And you're going to have to pay a premium for a guy like that. That's just kind of what we know.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of team that you want to target. And teams that have kind of another team that I think doesn't really know what they're doing right now is the Nashville Predators. That's another team that
I can't wait to see them at the draft, because that's going to give us a lot of information as to like whether or not Steven Stamkos wants out of Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, there you go. So I agree with the premise of Claude's question. Like, I love his questions. They're always so good and so thoughtful. I feel like the Montreal Canadiens should literally be looking at every roster, looking at every GM, and following up with that philosophy.
Yeah, 1,000%. Next one from Denny. I'm Misaku on Blue Sky. In the realm of potential available centers, rank the following in terms of likelihood or your favorite or both. I just like your show. Thank you, Denny. We like you.
We love Denny.
The centers that he's listed are Anton Lundell, John Tavares, Marco Rossi, Elias Pettersson, and Dawson Mercer. This is an eclectic list of centers. Who's at the bottom of that list for you? Lundell, Tavares, Rossi, Pettersson, Mercer.
Tavares.
Really? That's interesting.
Yes. He's not going to come here.
Well, yeah, he's not going to come here. So you're voting in likelihood. That's fair.
Yes. Tavares is the least likelihood.
I would put Marco Rossi also very low on the likelihood scale. He's so small. The Canadiens would have to give up a ton. It just seems antithetical to what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'll jump to the top of the list now.
Pedersen?
I want to be able to say I want to bank on Pedersen figuring this out, but I just can't do it knowing the price tag that's associated. So I would put Anton Lindell at the top. They call him Baby Barkov in Florida for a reason. Like that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's the most sensible. If we're looking at likelihood, if we're looking at fit, if we're looking at, possibility, like that's the one that's the most likable. I think Dawson Mercer is very tantalizing, but you'd have to give up so much for that.
Yep, absolutely. Boondoggle has two. First of all, why not Crosby? Don't know why not. We haven't been proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Second question, looking around the league, is there a realistic target for the Habs to offer sheet that the other team can't or won't match? I haven't investigated the offer sheet idea much because I just don't know that the Canadiens have an appetite for it. It just doesn't seem like the way they would want to conduct business. I could be wrong. Like they might come out this summer and be like, and do what the Blues did last year, where they offered sheeted two guys at the same time, and Stan Bowman just got to Edmonton and was like, I can't pay them both. So like I think like that's sort of in my mind anyway, like where my mind goes with the offer sheet question. Is there anybody out there that you would offer sheet and think that Montreal would have a reasonable shot of getting that player?
I think the likelihood is a big question, right? For me, what I would do is I would look at all the teams that are up against the cap. And I know, like we got some. I think it was a listener comment on YouTube about trying to offer sheet Matthew Nyes, right? The Leafs are in cap trouble. Well, depends.
I mean, they've
Marner's
got Marner coming off the books. Like that's a big deal. I think the Leafs would just say thanks for negotiating that contract on our behalf and sign him.
Exactly.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah. So that's the way I would approach it. When you were away, I did kind of look at the top offer sheet targets, and Gabe Vilardi was very much on that. But I do know he's also he's played more a winger than a center this season, so that is a little bit of an issue. But he was really the only one that really jumped out at me. JJ Peterka was the biggest name on that list.
I think Buffalo's going to trade him before he gets the option to.
Yeah, exactly. Evan Bouchard was the one that was, and that's not happening.
Evan Bouchard's not signed. How is that not a bigger story?
It's not happening. It's literally not happening. So I didn't even want to think about it.
Well, I mean, maybe Evan Bouchard could happen because they have to negotiate a contract with Connor McDavid that starts not this upcoming season, but the following one. I mean, maybe you can force their hand a little bit, especially if Evan Bouchard starts to feel pinched out. But yeah, I don't know. The offer sheet, I think some team out there is going to do something stupid. I can't wait to see who it is. Two more questions. Paul Brent Show asks, when did Craig Button get the title of president of Habs Nation West? Was it after he soiled himself on TV predicting the Habs Los series in 2021? How did that series end again? Also, can you say hi to my friend Pablo, who's stuck in Leafs land as a diehard Habs supporter who listens to the pod? Thanks. Hello, Pablo. Welcome. This is the first Pablo mention on the show, so thanks for listening. Craig Button has gotten that title because I think he's learned the error of his ways in deciding that series. I think he falls over himself to say nice things about Nick Suzuki. He keeps us awake on those West Coast games. You got to hand it to him. He doesn't stop yelling. He's a lot like me. Yeah, he did. He completely overcorrected. The pendulum swung so far back the other way.
But we do have to remind Paul what happened. It was 3-1, and then the Leafs face planted.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, last question for today. Andy at Rally Cap on Blue Sky. For both of you, what is your most treasured piece of memorabilia? Do you have one in mind, Laura?
I do. It's actually not mine. So a friend of mine, to preface this, a friend of mine had got a little bow tie, a Habs bow tie, and it was because I used to send her pictures of my nephew, who was at that time extremely chubby and so cute. And she sent me this bow tie with the note, I would like you to give this to your nephew, who's very chubby. So that was my favorite, that's my favorite story. But my favorite memorabilia that I have is somebody sent me a Habs teddy bear when I was having a bad day. And I just thought that was so thoughtful. I have knickknacks and stuff lying around, like keychains and all kinds of, I even have cupcake decorating thingies with the Habs logo on it. But that the teddy bear was very touching because it was a Leafs fan that sent it to me.
No, look at that. I have 3 on any given day. It can be one of these 3. One is a watch where the back plate of the watch is made out of wood from a seat from the Montreal Forum. So that I treasure. It was actually the first thing I got after hosting this show. It's the first thing I got because I got paid to do sports media. So that has a little bit more sentimental value to me. The other 2 I have on me. One of them is, I've talked about this before and I'm showing it on YouTube. It is my Kirby Doc signed baseball that I got from my friend DF Pendries. It's the dumbest, goofiest gift I've ever gotten. It's never going anywhere. I love it dearly. The other one is, I don't know if I've shared this one on the show, but I have a signed photo of one Maurice Richard that I have framed, and it sits in my on a shelf in a hallway in my apartment. Signed photo of Maurice Richard. I have it framed because it kind of looks like he's my grandpa when I did that, and I really think that's funny. So Maurice Richard signed photo. Speaking of signed photos,
yes,
if you would like a chance to win some signed photos, we're giving some away. We're doing a subscriber giveaway on YouTube. If you subscribe to us on YouTube and write contest entry down in the comment section, you will be entered to win either this photo of Josh Anderson once we hit 4,500 subscribers. Signed photo of Josh Anderson. And this signed photo of Arbor Xhekaj. Once we hit 5,000, we'll do the drawings for both of those. Your entry enters you for both of them. Good luck. Please subscribe, put contest entry. Let us know how much you want to win those prizes.
Yeah. Ian has so much Habs memorabilia that he's giving some away.
There's too much. Like the question asks for one thing, and I'm like, here's 3 things. Like, it's too much. I need to get rid of some stuff. All right, let's do our trivia and head out of here. Yesterday's question, in honor of Lane Hutson getting Norris votes, which is still funny to think about. Who was the last Montreal Canadien to receive any votes for the Norris? Do you have the answer?
And the answer is Jeff Petrie.
Correct. It was Jeff Petrie. It was in 2021. He got 1 vote, I believe, for the Norris that year. He got 1. Actually, he came in 13th place that year. 1 4th place vote and 2 5th place votes. So he totaled 5 votes. The others that have happened in recent memory: Weber in 2019-20, Petrie again in 18-19. And Weber, he got a bunch of votes in 16-17. Hudson's were the most number of votes since that Weber one. Correct answers were from Abon Post, Par JF, and Natalia Vamp. So thank you for playing our game, answering our trivia. Laura has our trivia question today, so I'll throw it over to you, Laura.
Yes, in honor of Chris Kreider being yeeted across the continent, I would like to remember the time. Well, we're not going to remember that series because it was heartbreaking, right? We still haven't forgiven him for the Carey Price thing. But the Montreal Canadiens beat the Boston Bruins to get into that series. Who scored the game-winning goal of that series to propel the Montreal Canadiens into the conference finals where they faced the Rangers and tragedy happened? The game was on May 14th, 2014. And good riddance to Chris Kreider.
I know, it's the end of an era in the best way possible. All right, that's going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for tuning in today, this week, and every day. We appreciate you all subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Doing that supports us. And make sure you don't miss an episode. Make sure for your second listen, you check out the Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also available on Amazon Fire TV. On your free Fire TV channels app, click the Montreal Canadiens logo in the hockey section, and you can watch all of our episodes there as well. You can find us posting everywhere that we post at Locked On Canadiens, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com to send us your mailbag questions. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.